to a lot of collections to digitize them and make them available for lots of us who would not go to Harvard to read some of their things. And of course, these were primarily things that would be in the public domain, so they were, you know, older works. And so I'm going to read something from a book called The Freedman's Book, which was compiled by Lydia Maria Child almost 150 years ago. So you guys may know this. Once Google digitized these books, and all of a sudden a lot of things in them became popular. And one of the things that was floating around that lots of people finally heard of, and of course it went Snoops. It got all over Snoops to find out if it was true, and so it was everywhere. But as it turns out, lots of investigation has happened as a result of this document, and it is proven to be true. In the summer of 1865, a former slave by the name of Jordan Anderson sent a letter to his former master, and 147 years later, the document reads as richly as it must have back then. Before that, the master himself wrote a letter to the freed slave and wanted to know if he would come back to work with him again. You know, would you come back? And so this is his answer.
I think I do remember.
To my old master, Colonel P.H. Anderson, Big Springs, Tennessee. Sir, I got your letter and was glad to find that you had not forgotten Jordan and that you wanted me to come back and live with you again, promising to do better for me than anybody else can. I've often felt uneasy about you. I thought the Yankees would have hung you long before this for harboring rebs that they found at your house. I suppose they never heard about you going to Colonel Martin's to kill the Union soldier that was left by his company in their stable, although you shot at me twice before I left you. I did not want to hear of your being hurt, and I'm glad you are still living. It would do me good to go back to the dear old home again and see Miss Mary, Miss Martha, and Allen, Esther, Green, and Lee. Give my love to all of them and tell them I hope we will meet in a better world, if not in this. I would have gone back to see you all when I was working in the Nashville hospital, but one of the neighbors told me that Henry intended to shoot me if he ever got a chance. I want to know particularly what the good chance is you propose to give me. I am doing tolerably well here. I get $25 a month with victuals and clothing. I think that's supposed to be victuals, but anyway, and clothing. Have a comfortable home for Mandy, the folks call her Mrs. Anderson, and the children, Millie, Jane, and Grundy. They go to school and are learning well. The teacher says Grundy has a head for a preacher. They go to Sunday school, and Mandy and me attend church regularly. We are kindly treated. Sometimes we overhear others saying them colored people were slaves down in Tennessee. The children feel hurt. By the way, they live in Ohio now. The children feel hurt when they hear such remarks, but I tell them it was no disgrace in Tennessee to belong to Colonel Anderson. Many darkies would have been proud, as I used to be, to call you master. Now, if you will write and say what wages you will give me, I will be better able to decide whether it would be to my advantage to move back again. As to my freedom, which you say I can have, there's nothing to be gained on that score, as I got my free papers in 1864 from the Provost Marshal General at the Department of Nashville. Mandy says she would be afraid to go back without some proof that you were disposed to treat us justly and kindly, and we have conducted to test your sincerity by asking you to send us our wages for the time we served you. This will make us forget and forgive old scores and rely on your justice and friendship in the future. I served you faithfully for 32 years, and Mandy, 20 years. At $25 a month for me and $2 a week for Mandy, our earnings would amount to about $11,680. Add this Add to this the interest for the time our wages have been kept back, and deduct what you paid for our clothing and 3 doctor's visits to me and pulling a tooth for Mandy, and the balance will show what we are in justice entitled to. Please send the money by Adams Express in care of V. Winters, Esquire, Dayton, Ohio. If you fail to pay us for faithful labors in the past, we can have little faith in your promises in the future. We trust the good Maker has opened your eyes to the wrongs which you and your fathers have done to me and my fathers in making us toil for you for generations without compensation. Here I draw my wages every Saturday night. But in Tennessee, there was never any payday for the Negroes any more than for the horses and the cows. Surely there will be a day of reckoning for those who defraud the labor of his hire. In answering this letter, please state if there would be any safety for my Millie and Jane, who are not grown up and both good-looking girls. You know how it was with poor Matilda and Catherine. I would rather stay here and starve and die, if it comes to that, than have my girls brought to shame by the violence and wickedness of their young masters. You will also please state if there has been any schools open for the colored children in your neighborhood. The great desire of my life now is to give my children an education and have them form virtuous habits. Say howdy to George Carter and thank him for taking the pistol from you when you were shooting at me. From your old servant, Jordan Anderson. That's wonderful. I couldn't believe it. I just loved it. So, of course, we went through all the things. You know, librarians, we're sticklers about whether things are real or not. So, I did quite a bit of research, and not just me, but lots of other people, too. So, it appears that what may have happened, of course, you know, he was illiterate. So, he dictated the letter to someone. And as it turns out, the person that he dictated it to had been a cashier in a bank. And so, you know, he was the one, of course, that came up with the exact amount of money. But the fact that they knew that this guy actually wrote the letter was that Jordan Anderson actually named one of his sons, Valentine, who was this guy's name that he dictated the thing to. I thought it was pretty cool.
Did he write it himself?
No, he did not write it himself.
There used to be an entire, I just read this recently, an entire livelihood possible for people who
Scribe?
who wrote letters for other folks.
Well, you know, Ohio was big abolitionist territory, and so a lot of that.
And now it's so